Hi there, this is James with Allied Furnace and AC over in Kenmore, Washington, near Seattle. Decided to shoot a second worst furnace installation ever video. If you look on YouTube, you'll see that we shot a worst furnace installation video about, I believe it was in 2013. Really poorly installed furnace with cracked heat exchangers, intensely undersized. It was then installed inside the belly of an old furnace, and it was just hugely offensive. This one here isn't quite as bad as that one, but it's still worth, pretty noteworthy. We have a system here which is it's flowing from right to left. Air is flowing down this duct, going through an air filter, going to an evaporator coil, down, and back up again. There used to be a furnace here that was an upflow furnace. And then this was the supply plenum. So there was a multitude of sins on this one. Let's start with some of the most obvious. The gas line here was in direct contact with the exhaust. This is C-vent material, so this pipe here gets up to a good 350 to 400 degrees. And it's in direct contact with the iron gas line. Gas, I believe, don't quote me on this, but I believe it's around 170 degrees is the flash point. And it's in direct contact with a nice hot exhaust pipe that well exceeds that. So part of this job is going to be repiping this gas line here. You can see it's actually touching in several spots. I apologize for the light, it's a little dark in here, but it's touching in several spots. Going to repipe this gas line and correct that sin, which is probably the most dangerous one here. When we look at this duct, you can see that the orientation of the way that they designed this ductwork. Any of you HVAC guys know, I mean, all manufacturers say you got to put the evaporator coil, it's supposed to go after the furnace. Your order of operations is you always have your return duct, you have your air filter, then you have your furnace, and then you have your coil after that. In this case though, they actually, this gas furnace that used to be right here was connected to a heat pump. And so you see this, it's not uncommon these days where an installer will think, well, I know what I'll do. I'll put the evaporator coil before the furnace. And that way it goes ahead and you'll get some heat out of the heat pump, and then it'll supplement, and then you can run the gas furnace in tandem with this simultaneously. Now normally on dual fuel systems where you have a heat pump working in tandem with a gas furnace, they can't run at the same exact time. I'm not going to go into the explanation as to why, but that's just how they go. But if you put the coil before the furnace, you could get it to run like that. But the problem is then try to imagine what's going to happen when the air conditioning is going in the summertime. This coil is going to get ice cold, air is going to flow down and go into the furnace. Now you're going to turn your furnace into an ice box, so to speak. That can be harmful, especially with variable speed drive blowers and stuff. That intense cold air is going to harm the control for the ECM motor and cause other issues as well. So what we're going to be doing today, I'm going to shoot a second video here to show you how I corrected this problem. But basically, this duct is going, this evaporator coil, and you can see this. Just to show you a couple of sins, they actually took this Honeywell electronic air cleaner assembly and they went ahead and they hacked the rails in the bottom here so they could haphazardly cram the coil in, because you see the coil, the A coil, is actually slightly taller than the air cleaner, so they hacked that, which was brilliant. And then they took some sheet metal, screwed it into the electronic air cleaner housing. And by the way, this electronic air cleaner was energized. There was a electrical back there, so they energized this module here that had sheet metal screws going right into the module. I'm trying to get some light in there so you guys can see. But then they put a rail in here, and then there was just a 1-inch paper filter sitting on top, and that's how they got a filter in here. So there were electrical sins here, design sins with how they oriented the refrigeration equipment. So you can see here they even propped the evaporator coil up with a brick. Very unprofessional stuff. So how Allied's going to correct the problem. We did new duct work. This duct is going to be replaced. Then there'll be a furnace here, or excuse me, let me start over again. There'll be a duct here, new air cleaner assembly, and then the furnace. And then we'll have a supply base can with a left side return on it that'll then go up, and then we'll have our new coil over here. The evaporator coil is going to be on the left side, and then that's going to go up and then supply this duct. And then that'll be a proper orientation. We'll go ahead and correct all the other sins, like the gas line touching the exhaust. That's going to be taken care of, but the orientation, that's how it's supposed to be set up. And that's how we're going to make it proper. So I'll shoot a second video here to show you what I did. And thank you.